Greetings. This is Arvette McLean with Speak, The Universe Listens. New ways to view age-old challenges. Change your thoughts, change your life. Step into the bigness of you.
So when thinking about the concepts of developing more confidence or I guess getting rid of insecurities or whatever, it's so interesting to me because like for my whole life, I've just felt like just so insecure and just like feel like I didn't have enough confidence to do anything, to accomplish anything or whatever. And it was like this weird conundrum for me because I literally felt like I was afraid of everything. And I mean everything. And I felt like anything that was given me to do, I could do it with no problem. So I never, like, it's unclear, like even thinking back, like it's like unclear to me, like, now why was I scared of everything and why did I feel insecure and why, did I suffer from a lack of confidence? Because all the reasons why people would say that they have those issues, I didn't have those issues. I always felt capable, but yet I was always afraid. There was a turning point, which I'll get to that later, but yeah, like I lived my life from a space of just being insecure with everything.
See, that's interesting too, because I've always felt like I kind of had like a similar like way of living for a long period of my life. Like to the outside, I would appear very like secure, or I would feel like almost like, honestly, it would almost come off as like conceited, like, oh, like he is super confident in himself. But like I would always like be walking around like as this little shell inside of me, like, oh, I don't think I deserve this, or oh, maybe I don't really know how to do this, or I hope they don't know that I don't know. Like it was, I used to always whenever I was like date somebody new, I was always joking, telling them like, yeah, like I'm probably the most insecure person that you'll ever meet, because deep inside my insecurities was sitting like really heavy, and it was like a big wall of them. Like you gotta climb to get over this wall to get to do something. But like on the outside, it always appeared like a very joyful, like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, like certain walk. But it took a while to even change that too. I don't want to skip to it yet, but it definitely took like some, like, why is this wall here? Like I had to like really figure out like, well, when did you mess up before? And then the answer to that was like, well, I mean, that ain't really messing up because this happened in the end. Or when you did that happened, but at the same time, so did this. So that ain't really bad. It was a lot though.
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar for me. Like I used to be very confident in what I know I can do well. So the things I was insecure about, I would not do, or try to like move the attention to the things I'm good at. Like, all right, this is what I'm good at, and I'm confident here. Like, can't nobody mess with me right here. So it's like, keep your attention on this, So, but yeah, I was insecure about things, but I guess my decision would be to, like, what I used to do was just not even bother with those. Let's stick to this. And when I come up with when it comes to something that I have to tap into those insecurities or overcome them, then I'd be kind of stuck. Yeah.
I remember my insecurity, was when I used to have to work customer service, right? Being a manager at a retail company for a while. It was like 8-9 years I was there. But when I first started off, I was just a guy working in the back of the truck. So I was cool. I ain't really had to deal with customers or nobody. So then, you know, eventually got promoted over time. Now I'm in the position as to where I have to greet people, I have to talk to people, and I'm like, so, because I'm so used to, my insecurity was just, I didn't know, my customer service skills weren't really there. You know, I didn't know how to talk to people. And that came from like, even as when I was younger and I was growing up with my mom, that was one of my mom's main things. She didn't like talking to people, you know. So I think I grabbed onto that trait. So getting into that that role of it as to where I have to deal with people on a 24/7 basis, I had to get used to, you know, talking and knowing how to talk to people. And I think what made me get out of my box was just after I did it for a while and I got out of my comfort zone. I think I was, every time that I started talking to people, I was uncomfortable, but by me being uncomfortable made me more comfortable. So after I did that, you know, my insecurities started to fade away just on that aspect of things, but I got plenty more insecurities.
I don't know used to, but I used to be insecure about speaking in front of large people. But I know my strength was, if I'm talking to you one-on-one, you're gonna fall in love with me. Like, seriously, like you gonna love me like one-on-one. I'm an animal. Like you, I'm a beast. Anybody gonna love me one-on-one. But I knew I was insecure about speaking in front of crowds. So like, just in like a work setting. I know that, like, that's what I was saying, using my confidence strength and kind of like getting away from my insecurity with, like, as far as speaking, I would hate to speak, like, even if it's just a work setting and I'm speaking to all my coworkers, I would hate that. But I know all my coworkers love me individually, so I know that in order for me to be able to speak in front of all of them got to fall in love with me individually for me to feel okay speaking in front of all of them.
Okay, so you had to do it like one-on-one with them.
Yeah.
I got you. But that was another one of mine too, talking in front of a crowd of people. I think at one time, it's crazy because mine is sort of like backwards. Like when I was working in retail, I was so, after a while, I got so comfortable with talking to people, being like the center of attention when things go wrong, and I got to fix problems for customers. And then after I got out of that setting, I really didn't have to deal with people on that level like I used to. So when I had to deal with people again on that same level, it's like I have to get my confidence back as to where it's like, you know what, all right, get back to that same energy that you had back then. You know, take what you know and get back into that zone, because being out of it for so long, I didn't have to do it. So it was like, all right, so.
It's funny that both of y'all use, I guess, public speaking as like the example, because I know I'd always known that like public speaking is like the number one fear, like amongst like most people. But I never had like a fear of public speaking, but I had a deep insecurity in public speaking. So I was never afraid to speak, but at the same time, I was only able to do it because in my mind, I was telling myself like, well, I could go up here and talk, because if it's 100 people, it's only 5 really listening, is what I used to tell myself. Like,
I like
so
that.
Larger crowds I used to feel very comfortable talking to, because it was like, oh, that's less people paying attention to me. And it wasn't until I started like pouring the confidence in myself, like, no, they're all listening because you do this well, and they all also want to hear what you're saying. But I always felt like that was a very hilarious insecurity, because it was like an example of it never appeared that way. Like I would get up and stand in front of a like crowd and speak, but I was never comfortable doing it. Like I was literally the only way I would get through it is if I told myself it's only the first 5 people listening to me. And so the first thing that I did to kind of like overcome that, I was like, well, first, are you listening to yourself? And then I was like, well, what am I saying? Like, am I just up here rambling, or do I feel like I'm like saying real words? And so when I first realized, I was like, well, first of all, you mean what you say, and you speak with a lot of intention. So why wouldn't you want them to listen? It's almost like I used to feel like my message didn't need to be heard. And it wasn't until I was like, no, you need to be heard. And now I find myself, one, enjoying doing this, and then two, constantly fighting for more front-facing jobs of like more people that look like me speaking. So that was one that I definitely had to like break down that wall. Like, well, why is this happening?
So a lot of times you hear people talk about, I guess, the competency confidence loop.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's basically like the more competent you are, the more confidence you have. And so it's kind of like what you were saying, the more you did the activity, the action of speaking to the guests or the customers, the more confidence you got. And so people pretty much say that confidence comes as a result of competence. And so you don't expect to be confident until you become competent. And that competence comes first before confidence. And so, of course, in a third dimensional reality, that's true. Like, the more you do something, the more confident you become at it. And, of course, that's locating your confidence pretty much outside of yourself, and it's contingent on something else. It's contingent on, I have to learn this, I have to do this right, I have to whatever. And so, like, for me, my confidence turned around once I realized that I was more than this physical body, and once I realized that I'm connected to it all, I'm tapped in, I'm a part of you, you're a part of me. And understanding that connection is what allowed me to feel confident in everything. And it doesn't have anything to do with how good I'm at doing anything. It's like, I know we're the same. I know we're connected. I know that energy that runs through you runs through me, and it runs through all things. And as long as I can remember that, keep that in my head, then it's easy for me to just be in a place of confidence. And I wouldn't even really call it confidence. I really call it a space of love. And so as long as I'm moving from a space of love, then all else falls into place. Because, like, you know, I think Stephen pretty much said it too, but like talking to people, like, oh my God. Like, I don't know what to say. And so, like, going to a party or something like that was just the bane of my existence. Because, you know, my husband, he loves having parties and stuff. And so I would just be like, oh my gosh, like another party. And, you know, I would just go and hide out. I do, to be honest, I still do. I'll hide out for a little while, take a break from the parties. But back then it was just sheer, you know, I'm just not okay. I'm not okay with like the small talk and all that stuff. But it wasn't until I'm like, you know what, all I have to do is flow love, and that's it. And so as long as I'm looking at people in their eyes and loving on them, like feeling love in my heart for them, then everything else is fine. And that holds true with everything. If I'm trying to swim and, you know, I feel myself getting a little panicky, then I just send love to the water. So, you know, if I'm outside, you know, in a place that looked like it could possibly be a dangerous situation, like, I'm never afraid. Like, I'm totally fine. And people are like, why are you talking to that person? Or, you know, you shouldn't be doing blank thing. But I'm flowing love, and from that space, I feel totally fine. I'm typically, like, I spend my whole life being a chicken.
Yeah, I think kind of similar. Me gaining a lot of confidence came from, like, when I had insecurity about things, me gaining confidence was, I kind of told myself, like, this all a part of the story. Like, the universe is constantly working, and like, this is a part of that story, this is a part of that story. Like, I put things like, all right, this is a part of the story, and this brought me here right now to overcome this insecurity or to gain confidence from this. So that kind of helped me when I kind of put it like, all of this is part of the story. So why am I sitting here being insecure about this or being scared of this when this is all the universe planned to bring me to this moment?
Nice, I like that.
Yeah, what you just said, Rodney, it made me think like this is never happening to you; it's happening for you. So I remember being in meetings, and I'm in meetings with these top dogs, and they've been in the corporate world for years. And here I come, I'm a small potato, you know. But I'm a manager. But when we were in these meetings, I had to talk. But I felt comfortable. Then it was weird. I felt comfortable talking because it was like, and one time I was insecure about it, but I had something to say. But also I was, I knew that I was able to do it. You know, I didn't have no fear to say what I had to say. As versus back then when I first started, I was like a little hesitant a little bit because I was looking more on the outside of me versus the inside. But when I was in my thought process of looking in the inside of me, like just knowing like I got this. Like I tell myself like I got this, and I started talking in those rooms. It was like, dang, I started getting everybody else to talk, you know. So yeah, I would say if anything, main thing would be just anything that you're doing is just knowing, you know, that you got it. And then when you know that you got it, even if you don't feel like that you got it, when you start it, it's gonna be like, okay, I actually got it.
I think a lot of times I ain't gonna say a lot of times, but sometimes people can get insecure about, you know, where they're at in their life and things like that. And I've been there, and when I get there, I'm like, okay, this is not where I want to be at this moment, whatever. And then I think of, like, you know, sometimes we're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have made this decision, or maybe I shouldn't have went there. But it's like, hold on. If I didn't go here, I wouldn't have met this person that I love, and a lifetime friend or whatever. If I went there, I wouldn't have learned this and that. Like, so it's like a lot of times when you look at your insecurities a different way, it can bring you to gratitude. And like you said, happening for you, not to you. You can bring it to, okay, well, this is, like I was saying earlier, this is all a part of my story. This happened for a reason. I wouldn't have met this person. I wouldn't have went through this. Like, all this is a part of my story, so I can have confidence in that in my life.
I like what you said with that, man. You made me think for myself. I had a time in my life as to where the people I was working with, you know, they had the apartment, you know, they had a nice car. Here I am, I'm in the same position as them, yet I ain't got no car, I ain't got my own place, you know, I'm catching a bus, walking to work. So I felt very uncomfortable, sort of like being in that circle, because I'm still thinking to myself, man, you know, I'm insecure. I ain't got half of what you guys got, you know. So over time, I came to get more confident within myself. Like, it's not about, you know, I was sort of looking more in the 3D sense of things. And when I started shifting into the mindset of like 4D, just being confident with me, you know, knowing that it's not about what you got, you know, the materialistic things. Just be confident, act like you got it. I knew, even if I didn't have it then, in my mind, I knew that I had it. Even when I was walking, I thought I was driving in the Escalade or something, you know. But that mindset that I had, I kept up with it. And when I look back, I'm like, dang, you know, people looked at me in a higher regard than what I actually looked at myself. And that was the part that was sort of amazing, because I run back into these people over time, and they're like, dang, man, you was the man at such and such and such company, man. You was doing your thing, and so forth. And they present opportunities to me. So it was, when I think about it now, I'm just like, dang. If I was in that space all the time, it would have made my life a lot easier, you know.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, looking back, just to piggyback off what you were saying, I think a lot of times we play that comparison game with this and that, like they got this, like I only got this, you know, and we set ourselves up for failure, and I think we add more insecurities and we lose confidence when we play in the comparison game of, you know, what this person got, instead of, you know, okay, I'm capable of anything. I'm capable of all things that I desire. You know?
Right.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we often say here that I really take that actually I apply to that thought right there is, instead of, I got away from the comparing and I started seeing like, okay, well if you got it, now I know for a fact that I can get it, because you know, once you see one, then you know it's capable, you know it's possible. And so I started thinking about it like that. But you know, the other day I was also like faced with like one of my insecurities head on. So we were moving things around at the school or whatever, and I have a really hard time asking for help. Like, to my detriment, like I will put my health in danger before I ask for some help. So we were moving things around or whatever. I didn't really eat much or whatever, got real dehydrated, and ended up like feeling real lightheaded. Finally limped over to the nurse and was like, nurse, I'm not feeling that great or whatever. And so she was like, yeah, well you sit down right here. She started to get me situated, started to get me right. And then like a lot of chaos happened, a fire alarm happened. So now I gotta go out into this 90-degree heat that I'm over here that I didn't ask for help. So now I'm about to be dehydrated and pass out. Now I gotta go into this sun, and it just was not good. It was overly dramatic. Like I swear I hated it. But Monday they were like doing like a random thing where we just saying what we're thankful for. And one of the teachers was like, yeah, you know, and I'm really thankful for Teron for like literally risking his life to like clean up this or whatever. And I felt so embarrassed in that moment, like kind of shrinking, like, well, why? And then I started like, and then another person said, yeah, we want to thank your team for like cleaning up. And that's when I was like, well, how about I try and like take these words and actually appreciate them, like I told you guys I've been trying to do here lately. And so I was actually like taking in the thank yous and like feeling a thank you. And it's like, well, yeah, you did do something amazing, and it didn't hurt to ask for help from the nurse, because at the same time, everybody's here together. Like, it was the first time I realized that in the school even, we're all connected. Like, every time I'm here, I hear you say, yeah, no, we're all connected to the source within. And I always think to myself, yeah, but when I get to the regular world, for some reason I wouldn't apply it. And that was like one time was like flat out, you need to be connected to everyone, because if you don't, you're gonna feel terrible about doing something good, and nobody's even judging you for like the medical thing. So it was like I had to definitely break that wall down and go, well, it's okay to ask for help. It was a lot.
So you said a whole lot, and I don't think I'll be able to capture it all. But one thing I do want to say, because this goes directly into insecurities, is the concept of not feeling worthy. So self-worth, and I'm going to say, like, when you feel insecure, you feel bad. When you feel bad, that's a signal that you're out of alignment with your higher self. So basically, your physical self is looking at itself saying something's wrong with you. That's the opposite of what your higher self is saying. And so the more opposite you are, the further out of alignment you are with your higher self, the worse you're going to feel. One of the worst feelings that you can have is to feel bad about yourself, because your higher self feels great about you. So, like, the whole concept of not asking for help, especially when you need it. But you know, it's a lot of telltale signs that we aren't feeling worthy, or we're not valuing ourselves as we could. But it goes back to lack of self-worth not believing you're good enough, not believing you're worthy, not believing you're deserving, not believing that you're loved, loving, lovable, all these things, and all that is the insecurity. And again, it's just that we're out of alignment. And so whenever we're feeling bad really about anything, that means we're out of alignment, and the goal, I guess, would be to get yourself back into alignment. And you can just ask yourself the question, what would my higher self think about this?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting you just said that, because I be having moments sometimes just throughout the day when I'm out and about and I'm working, and I just may do something crazy. I may sit back and go out to a job and I have to unscrew something and I don't bring my screwdriver with me. And I'm like, and the first thing I say, Stephen, that was stupid of you. And then I stop for a second and then I think to myself, I'm like, hold up. You ain't stupid. You just, I have to retract what I said, and I just think to myself, like, hold up, man. You ain't stupid. You smart. you just made a little boo boo. But when you said that, it just made me think about on an everyday basis, what I be telling myself, and that was just one example I could really think of, like. I'm smart.
Yeah, because if you think about the stuff that we say to ourselves, like, we wouldn't say that stuff to our worst enemy. Like you probably wouldn't even say it to somebody that you didn't like, you stupid. Well, you might, but it's not likely. You might be saying it to yourself under your breath, but you're not going to say it to them, But we'll say all kinds of stuff to ourselves. And so that's like a clear thing, too, of just not valuing ourselves and not really understanding our worth and making our worth based on something outside of us. It's based on what did we do, what can we do, what will we do next. And what if you couldn't do anything at all? Like, what if you were a total invalid, or like all the things that we use to measure our worth, what if all those things were gone? Would that make you unworthy?
No.
And so really shifting how we determine our worth, because it's really our birthright. Like, we're already born worthy. We're already born. We're divine beings. God doesn't have to prove God's worth. God is divine, and we're in the likeness. We're divine beings. So I don't have to do anything to prove that I'm worthy. But the more that I understand my worth, the more easy my life will be, the more beautiful, the more divine, the more miraculous. And so, like, really finding all kinds of ways to remind yourself that you are worthy as you are right now.
It's funny because I used to always have a big issue of, like, I would definitely talk down on myself, like, innerly. And the way that I started breaking that was, well, first I was like, well, who do you believe the most? And I was like, well, myself. And so if I believe myself the most, then I knew it just was counterproductive to be thinking these things and saying these things about myself, because I'm going to be the first to believe it. And so, like, I don't want to believe that stuff. And so that was the minute I was like, well, you believe yourself the most. So if you believe yourself the most, you need to stop thinking these things and start thinking these things instead. That helped me stop thinking bad about myself. It was like, ooh, like, because what if I believe that I would just, like, what if I believe I could never tie a shoe, really? Like, I used to just flat out say, like, no, I can't tie a shoe, or no, I ain't never worried about tying a shoe. Like, that almost became a thing. Like, I would buy shoes, like, and just tie them up one time and try and slip in from then on in. Like, it was a very small thing, but it was like just a microcosm of you believe yourself. So the more you say it, the more you believe it.
So what is something that you can say to yourself to believe differently about yourself? If you're I guess, insecure or lacking confidence, like what could you say to yourself?
I am more than that.
That's one of the big ones, yeah.
You could also tell yourself, like, if you are feeling insecure about doing a task and you felt like you just did it and it wasn't well, tell yourself, well, you made improvement on that from the last time you did it, and the next time you'll be even better. That's one of the things I tell myself when I'm thinking about doing something that's challenging to me. It's like, well, you did a great job here and you're going to do even better the next time.
I just say, I got this. Look in the mirror, or just tell yourself, I got this. And when you're saying it, just showing an attitude of gratitude, and that would just sort of get you, get you out of that state of insecurity a little bit.
And then I think also too, really loving on yourself, and feeling that love of self-love, like feeling that love within helps you.
Absolutely. And without feeling the love without, like, a lot of times we will look at someone else and then say what's wrong with them. And that's like, we do that a lot. Like, we're looking at other people saying, why they got that on? That don't even match. Why she say it like that? How they gonna come off on me like this?
Right.
That was the stupidest thing. What made them do that? Like, but everything that we're saying about other people, we're feeling that in our own bodies. Our bodies don't know that we're talking about somebody else. Right. So we're feeling those feelings that we're putting out, we're feeling them within. And then we're responding from that space. So then that, if I'm talking about how your shoes don't match, then I'm gonna feel extra insecure when I put on my shoes. If I'm like, that don't even make sense how they did that. Then before I make a decision, then I'm gonna be like overthinking it. Like, am I making a good decision? Is this going? It's like whatever we're putting out, we're also putting it in. And so by the same token, when we're loving on ourselves, to love on others as well also helps us with our level of feeling confident and secure.
That's true. Yeah, I try to make that's an everyday task. Make sure I don't judge nobody, don't talk about nobody. Making sure I'm like in that right, making sure I'm in alignment now. Like, okay.
And like, kind of like what you said, but it's like when you see them doing good, then you're just like, oh man, that is so awesome. Like even if you don't have a chance to praise them out loud, but in your mind, you take the opportunity to really acknowledge them and be like, wow, that is amazing.
And it's funny you said that every time we say we judge out, we're also like more insecure, like, or thinking about it more in ourselves. I remember the other day I was somewhere and I was like, man, I wish they just do their job. And then I remember like sitting there, like literally the next thing thinking to myself, like, am I doing like enough? Like, I hope they don't think I'm slacking around here. And so it was like, oh, like, that's that. Like, if I didn't think, oh, if such and such just do their job, things would be better, I wouldn't be sitting here like, man, I hope they don't think I'm not doing it.
So any closing comments on ways to be more confident or less insecure?
I would say just if you ever feel insecure about something that you're doing, just get into the mindset of telling yourself that you got it, okay? And just also come from a space of having the attitude of gratitude when you're saying positive affirmations to yourself.
Yeah, and I would just say that, confidence is a feeling. So if you feel better about something, you'll do better in something as well. So to always remember to feel the best as you're doing it, and the best result will come.
I'm a piggyback off of that with the feeling the confidence, because that is actually key, because you can manufacture whatever emotion you want. So like when you're in the midst of feeling insecure, well, you don't even have to wait until then. You can just practice feeling confident at any time. Like if you know you have a tendency to feel insecure, then just take time and just run confidence through your body. Just feel confident. Like whenever there are things that you do feel confident about. So think about those things, and how do you feel when you feel confident, and then just manufacture those feelings and feel them throughout your body. And yeah, that's an easy tool. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for joining us on this conversation about gaining more confidence, losing some of that insecurity, and hopefully you have picked up on something that you can use. So we look forward to talking to you again next week. Until then, this is Arvette.
And this is Steven.
Teron.
Run.
Bye.